Vrajavanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnu Prabhupada Maharashtra Raja Gacharya Asada C.C. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ramacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Paramsika Host Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopira Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Ki Jai, Navadhan Ki Jai, Ganga Shamana Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane, Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pracharane, Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschacharya Shatarane, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Adi-lila, chapter 7, verse 46. Tapa Misra Ghore Bhiksha Nirvahan Sanyasira Sange Nahi Mani Nirmantrana
Sanyasira Sangye Nahi Mane Dimatra Tapana Visvera Yari Visyani Napana Tapana Visvera Yari Visyani Napana Sanyasara Sangye Nahi Mane Dimatra Sanyasira Sangye Nahi Mane Dimatra Tapana Visvera Yari Visyani Napana Tapana Visvera Yari Visyani Napana Sanyasara Sangye Nahi Mane Dimatra Sanyasira Sangye Nahi Mane Dimatra Tapana Visvera Yari Visyani Napana
Tapana Misra of Tapad Misra. Agare, in the house. Bhiksha, accepting food. Nirvahana, regularly executed. Sanyasira, with other Mayavadi sannyasis. Sange, in company with them. Nahi, never. Mane, accepted. Nirmantrana, invitation. Translation. As a matter of principle, Lord Chaitanya regularly accepted his food at the house of Tapan Misra. He never mixed with other sannyasis, nor did he accept invitations from them. Purport. This exemplary behavior of Lord Chaitanya definitely proves that a Vaishnava sannyasi cannot accept invitations from Mayavadi sannyasis nor intimately mix with them. So, as I explained yesterday, Lord Chaitanya was revolutionary in his conduct relating to who he would associate with. So the previous verse stated how he was at the house, he stayed at the house of Chandrasekhar, who was regarded as low class or Sudra. But sannyasi actually shouldn't do such a thing according to the normal standards of scripture and behavior. And in this verse it is stated that Lord Chaitanya did not accept the invitations from the sannyasis. So normally it's quite the opposite. If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi who was dressed like a Mayavadi, he should welcome their association. And we'll see that the other sannyasis were all in one group. They associated with each other. And generally what they do when they associate is they discuss Vedanta and the commentaries of Shankaracharya. So Lord Chaitanya avoided these sannyasis completely, even though he was also a sannyasi, plus he was also a sannyasi with the Mayavadi dress. But he avoided them completely. And instead, he ate at the house of Tapan Misra, who was not a sannyasi, he was a grihastha. So his conduct was quite different from the conduct of an ordinary sannyasi, and of course even from the regular point of view, following rules and regulations, he looks like he was deviating slightly from that as well. So this of course is again the principle of the Vaishnava. So I mentioned yesterday that the Vaishnava has a different type of respect. His hierarchy of respect is different because he regards the Vaishnava superior to the Brahmana and to anyone else in the Varnashram system. Even if that devotee is lower in the Varnashram system or not in the Varnashram system, he gets higher regard. So that, of course, is scriptural also. So it's a principle which the Vaishnavas understand, but which others may not understand because they don't read the Vaishnava scriptures, they read the other scriptures. So similarly here, in this verse we have the idea of association. In the Nectar of Devotion, there Rupa Goswami, he quotes a verse, I think it's from some Purana, and there it states that the wise person understands that people are like spatikas, and spatika is a crystal, and it's clear. So yeah, clear crystals up there. Are they still there? Yeah, they're sitting on the on the top of the thing. Oh, those are glass ones. We have natural crystals also in India. So they're clear. So if we take a crystal and we put it next to a rose, a pink rose, it looks pink. Put it next to a yellow rose, it will look yellow. And put it next to a blue flower, it'll look blue. So it is influenced by the object it's with, then it develops the same color very quickly, like naturally. So people are like spatikas. So if they come near one type of person, they become like that person. So if a devotee comes near a materialist and closely associates with them, very easily he becomes like a materialist. If he associates with devotees, he becomes like and he's a materialist, he associates with a lot of devotees, then he becomes like a devotee. We can say this is a natural propensity of human beings. And of course that's the reason why in the Varnashram system they separate the classes and you don't associate too closely with the other Varnas. You stay within your Varna to keep your gunas properly proper. So if you're a Sattvic, a Brahmana, then you associate with Brahmanas and you stay Sattvic. And if you associate with Sudras, then you'll become Tamasic. And you ruin your qualification, you change your qualities. Huh? So in this way, the idea of Sangha is very, very important. Of course, it also works the opposite way. If someone in Tamagun associates with a lot of Sattvic people, then he can become Sattvic. Therefore, it works both ways. So you can get bad association and good association. Similarly, with the Vaishnava. If the Vaishnava associates with Vaishnavas, then he becomes Vaishnavic. Or if a materialist associates with Vaishnavas, he tends to be Vaishnavic also. If a Vaishnava associates with a lot of materialists, then he becomes materialistic. So, therefore, one of the principles that is emphasized in Caitanya Caritamrita by Lord Chaitanya is you associate with the Vaishnavas and you give up completely the asat sangha, because this will influence your devotion, this asat sangha. So we have sat sangha, which means association with devotees, and we have asat sangha, association with materialists or whatever, the wrong type, Vaishnavas, those who aren't Vaishnavas, because it will influence you. So, who is asat? Asat. That means anyone who's not a Vaishnava, technically, and Satwa means anyone who's a Vaishnava. So we associate with Vaishnavas, and we avoid non-Vaishnava association. So who is the asat? Who are these asat people? In this case, it's Mayavadis. They're asat. And not only Mayavadis, any impersonalist. Someone who has very strong convictions that the Supreme is impersonal, or that the personal forms of Vishnu or Krishna or Rama are illusory, they're not real, and the ultimate reality is this impersonal Brahman. So there are Mayavadis who believe this. Of course, there are other type of impersonalists as well. They may not say the world is an illusion like a Mayavadi, but nevertheless they say impersonal. Which goes for the people following Sankhya philosophy of Kapila, the atheistic Kapila. So they just believe in impersonal something. Oh, actually they don't even believe in impersonal something, impersonal Atma. They don't even believe in a Brahman. But the logicians believe in an impersonal Brahman. So we have people who may believe in some impersonalist thing, but not exactly Mayavad philosophy. Mayavad philosophy is impersonal, but also they say that nothing exists, the jiva does not even exist. Others will accept a jiva and an impersonal Brahman, but Mayavadis say no, the jiva is illusory, maya. And material world is maya. That's why they're called Mayavadis, those who proclaim everything is maya except Brahman. This, of course, is akin to Buddhist philosophy that says everything is illusion. Only difference is, in Buddhist philosophy, there's also no Brahman. There is no jivas, there is no material world, there is no God, there is no Brahman. So that's Buddhist philosophy. Mayavad philosophy, there's no material world, there is no jiva, but there's something called Brahman, which is something like nothing because it has no form, qualities, activities. So it's called covered Buddhism. So that philosophy has become stronger than the other impersonal philosophies due to the arguments of Shankaracharya. So it became a very prominent philosophy. In fact, at one time, most of the people seemed to have been impersonalists, and there were very few Vaishnavas. And then finally, Acharyas like Ramanujacharya came and he started writing Vaishnava commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra, and he gave arguments against Shankara's philosophy. And then gradually the Vaishnavas began to defeat the Shankara's followers, and Vaishnav sampradayas became stronger. So for a long time, Mayavad philosophy was dominating everything. And even today, that Mayavad philosophy is quite prominent. If in universities they study Vedic philosophy. They'll study Shankara's philosophy, a lot of that, mainly. Very little of the Vaishnava philosophy. Of course, now we're changing that because we have some scholars who are Vaishnavas in India, all in Shikola departments. So anyway, the Mayavadis were strong in Lord Chaitanya's time, also very, very strong. Savrabhauma Bhattacharya was another Mayavadi, impersonalist. And we see here in Varanasi, all these sannyasis were Mayavadi sannyasis and very, very strong. Right? So, this philosophy is, you say, the object of attack by all the Vaishnava Sampradayas. And similarly with Lord Chaitanya. So he says that the Mayavadi, that Mayavad philosophy is very dangerous for the Vaishnava. In fact, he says that if you see a Mayavadi walking down the road, that's contaminating just to look at him. So you have to jump in the Ganga and bathe yourself and purify yourself from that, just looking at him, looking at the Mayavad. And he also says if you read the Mayavad commentaries, then your devotional life is finished. You get very confused by their argumentation, then you lose your faith in Vaishnava philosophy. So therefore, he says, don't associate with the Mayavadis. So that is one type of asat person, the Mayavadi. That's not the only one. Any impersonalist, of course, who says that the form of the Lord is illusory and Maya, etc., that are considered to be asat. As well as that, we'll have people that worship devatas and say devatas are supreme. And that the whole goal of life is simply to practice dharma in order to elevate yourself in the material world to Svargaloka. That's karma mimamsa philosophy. So that's also considered asat. Anyone who propagates that is asat. That philosophy, of course, is not so prominent in India now. It was quite prominent even in Shankaracharya's time, and Buddha's time also was very prominent. So therefore, that's why Buddha appeared and rejected the Vedas. In Shankaracharya's time, there were still many prominent karma mimamsika philosophers propagating go to Svargaloka, etc. So this is also considered asat. They accept the Vedas like Shankaracharya, but they don't accept a Supreme Lord. They accept worship devatas and go to Svargaloka, and that's the purpose of life. It's also materialistic philosophy, asat. So besides people who follow the Vedas but don't understand about Bhagavan, other people who don't follow the Vedas, they're asat also, of course. So all sorts of materialists that don't follow any principles at all, sinful people, they're called asat as well. In this way we have different types of asat people. So if we associate with those persons, Vaishnava associates with those persons, he tends to get contaminated. So therefore we avoid that association. So just like the crystal comes near the red object, it looks red. So that's to illustrate that very easily you can transform because of that association. So what is that transformation? Transformation is that we develop the same likes and dislikes as the other person. We develop the same attitude, the same viewpoint of the material world, etc. So by association, this can happen very easily. So what is that association? Not just, of course, as I said, just simply looking at the Mayavadi coming down the road is bad, but more serious is close association. Of course, in the Nectar of Instruction, the Rupa Goswami says that the devotees associate in three ways. They exchange knowledge, information, what they believe in. So we exchange knowledge about Krishna, and that's our satsanga. So the asat aspect would be to talk about material things closely and share your material ideas with another person. That's a type of asat sangha. Another is to give and receive things, gifts. So we associate closely with materialists that we give and receive all sorts of things from them. Then we get kind of obligated to them, and we develop bonds of affection with them. And then there's another type of thing that's taking food and giving food. We feed others prasadam and we give prasadam. That's another exchange among the Vaishnavas. So among the materialists, it's eating their food, feeding them and giving them food. This is an exchange also. And that again creates bonds of obligation and affection. And of course, if you eat their food and they've cooked the food, then it also, you absorb their sin and their contaminated consciousness also. So, in other words, a real sangha means not just looking at a person or coming close to them for a few seconds on the on the sidewalk or in the tram or whatever, or an airplane, whatever, but rather that we actually establish some sort of relationship with the other person, or rather intimate relationship, and then we start exchanging things on an equal level. So that creates, or that causes a great influence of the other person upon you. So therefore, that type of association, that sangha, is to be avoided. Otherwise, we tend to get contaminated. So the other association, of course, is the good association. So we follow the same principles with the devotees. We associate with them, we take their prasadam, or we feed them, and we offer, and we receive things from them, and we exchange knowledge, spiritual knowledge, together. So that's good association. So through that, we develop spiritually. We get a spiritual influence. So this is a fundamental principle of the Vaishnava. And in the Nectar Devotion, there we have those 64 angas of bhakti, which were described in the second wave of the first part of the book. So of those 5 are principal types of activities, and among them was the sangha, sadhu sangha, very important aspect. And for the Vaishnava, that sadhu sangha is also related to process of hearing. So last night I explained that we stay at the namabhas stage until we get knowledge, sambandha gyan. So where do we get that from? So we get it from sangha, devotees. So devotee association is very necessary. Another way of explaining it is that we have the different types of devotees, the Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. So the Kanishta, according to the Bhagavatam, does not associate with devotees, but he has faith in the Lord, so he worships the Lord in the temple. But his understanding is very little. The Madhyama associates with devotees, so therefore he has good knowledge. He understands tattva, sambandha gyan, etc. He knows why he's worshipping, who he's worshipping, etc. So the Madhyamadikari is a real devotee. The Kanishta is called Vaishnava Praya. He's almost a devotee. He's not quite a devotee. And the real devotee is called the Madhyama Adhikari. So in other words, he has good knowledge. And how does he get the knowledge? By associating with devotees. So he associates with devotees in a very friendly manner. With the Kanishtas, or those who are less, then he gives knowledge. So therefore he's allowed to associate with a Kanishta. He's not a materialist, he's somewhat of a devotee. So he can associate by not being equal to him and exchanging equally, but by giving knowledge. So that's good. That's how we preach. And for those who are superior, then he serves them. And he accepts knowledge from them. So therefore the Madhyamadikari associates with the devotees, and by this type of association, he advances in his bhakti. So it's a very, strong principle that we have to follow. Now, so we associate with the devotee, and we avoid the non-devotees. So, of course, avoiding the non-devotees means that, of course, Mayavadis, others, demons, people who hate the idea of the Lord, confirmed atheists and persons like that. So we generally avoid them. And we have among our aparads, don't preach to the faithless persons. So we avoid trying to explain about Krishna and bhakti to someone who's completely opposed to the idea. Don't bother, just leave him. And we find more favorable people to preach to. Those who are innocent, those who have a little bit of faith, and we preach to those persons. So we don't preach to them, and of course we don't intimately associate with those persons also in a very friendly way. Of course, we can say the exception is we can we're not impersonal, so we're not indifferent to everyone in the material world. We're compassionate to everyone, even the demons, whatever. But at the same time, we don't closely associate with them as equals to, and become friendly with them. But we can associate with a person in order to preach to them if they are not completely hopeless and inimical. So that type of association is allowed if we're going to preach to another person, whatever. So here, Caitanya Mahaprabhu was avoiding the sannyasis, but he was a sannyasi also. So normally that would be good, satsanga. The Mayavadis associate with each other, that's their satsanga. They encourage one another, they become strong in their faith, they get enthusiastic to study Vedanta by being together and discussing all these topics. Lord Chaitanya was also dressed the same, but he avoided them completely. And he had a different idea of conduct. So, why? Because though he was dressed like a Mayavadi sannyasi, he was not a Mayavadi. So therefore he avoided them completely. He was, his beliefs were completely contrary to Shankara's philosophy. So therefore he avoided them. It looks like here they must have invited him. Please come, let us discuss together. They were being a little merciful from their point of view. You come and join us and we'll have nice discussions about Mayavad philosophy. So they invited him, but he refused. He didn't want to do that. So that was, from their point of view, the Mayavadi's point of view, that must have been a little bit rude or strange, because there's the duty of the Mayavadi to study the commentaries on Vedanta Sutra. It's one of their main activities. So his conduct from their point of view was very irregular. The other point mentioned here is not only that Sangha in the sense of listening, whatever, because, as I said, to study those commentaries of the Mayavadis is like the end of your Vaishnava career. So he avoided them for that reason. The other thing is that he took his food at the house of Tapan Misra, who was a devotee. He did not want to eat with anybody else. So as I mentioned, food, accepting food is a type of Sangha also. Giving and receiving food is a type of association, so it can influence you also. So he ate in the house of devotee. Very good. Not in the house of a Mayavadi. So that, of course, is a principle that we follow. We try to avoid as much as possible eating food cooked by materialists. And we take the prasadam offered to the Lord and prepared by devotees. People may criticize that because we even avoid the prasadam of devatas or Shiva. So they say, oh, you're offending Shiva, you're offending the devatas because you don't even take that prasadam, whatever. But there's an exceptional case. If those persons offer that food first to Vishnu and then to Shiva or the devatas, then we can accept it. But if they simply offer it to Shiva or the devatas, that's a sign that they regard them as supreme. And therefore we cannot accept that. So as what is the saying? You are what you eat. So that's very true. If you eat tamasic food, you become tamasic. If you eat rajasic food, you become rajasic. If you eat sattvic food, you become sattvic. That's again a principle of association with things. And of course, you have a sattvic environment, you're sattvic, you're in a tamasic environment, you tend to become tamasic. It's also a principle. But the principle of eating is maybe a little more intimate because you're not only associated, you're eating it. It's going in your body, it's nourishing you. So you're getting tamasic nourishment or sattvic nourishment. So it'll affect your body, and then it affects your consciousness. That's from the material point of view. So you eat sattvic food rather than tamasic food. But then the other point is that the devotee is not even interested in sattvic food. He's interested in food which is offered to the Lord. It becomes spiritual food, prasadam. So that's also got the effect of, if you take the prasadam, then you become spiritualized. Instead of nourishing you in terms of material gunas, you get spiritual nourishment. So that's the best type of food. So even if we eat sattvic food, it's still sinful if we don't offer it. It's less sinful than tamasic or rajasic food, but nevertheless it involves violence in this material world because you have to kill a plant or at least to do something. So it's still got some sin attached to it. If we offer to the Supreme Lord, then with devotion, then no sin. It's completely free of sin. But more than not having any karma attached to it, it's prasad, it's the mercy of the Lord. It becomes spiritualized. So not only we get free, we're not free of karma, it destroys your karma also. And it helps the jiva develop bhakti. Which sounds strange because how can food produce something spiritual in the Atma? But because it's prasadam, it's no longer food, it's not material food anymore. It has the devotion in it. So you take that, then the soul gets nourished. So it's not just material nourishment in terms of gunas, it's also nourishment for the soul. So that's what makes prasadam special. Of course we get nourishment not even from eating, just from hearing the holy name, or hearing scriptures or whatever. That's also nourishing to the soul. But this is another type of nourishment through the eating process. We can develop our bhakti as well. So therefore eating is very important, and generally the Brahmins only eat from a Brahmin kitchen. They won't eat the food from a non-Brahmin kitchen. I mean, they want to keep their sattvic principles intact, whatever like that. And in general, probably in traditional times like Lord Chaitanya's time, there were no restaurants. Everybody ate in their own house. The kshatriya wouldn't also eat in anybody else's house. He would only eat, the Vaishya would only eat in his family's house. He wouldn't eat in anybody else's house. They don't want to contaminate themselves, so they only eat among only family members and the relatives, extended relatives. They don't go out and eat food cooked by strangers. They're very, very strict. Therefore, even in Lord Chaitanya's time, they're very, very strict. So the rule for the sannyasi is, because a sannyasi should not cook, he should not touch fire. So he should not cook for himself. So what does he do? Of course, he can eat roots and fruits from the forest, raw things, like the vanaprastha is supposed to go to the forest and eat roots and fruits. So the sannyasi could also do that, just eat what's available, not cook anything. Or the alternative is bhiksha, begging. So they can go from door to door. But then who's cooking the food? They don't know. So therefore the rule is, you go to a brahmana's house and you eat their food only. Don't eat from the the lower castes. No. So that was the custom for the sannyasi. Go to the brahman's house and eat their food, whatever they gave. And we see Lord Chaitanya didn't follow that rule either. Instead of going to the brahman house, he went to the house of devotees. Eats in the house of devotees. It doesn't matter what they are. Subhuti Rai was considered to be a Sudra. He ate in his house. Whatever. So he didn't give regard to the regular rules. He was more interested in the devotional aspect. So go to a devotee's house, stay in a devotee's house, eat the food cooked by the devotee, which is prasadam. That's a higher principle. So therefore his conduct was not proper according to regular varnashram, and from the point of view of the sannyasis also was not proper. So that's the conduct of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, any question?
Question about food. You were talking about sorry, how important is food, and also in the Bhagavad Gita we read the description of the different types of food, and sometimes from my observation it's not compatible with prasadam. So I was just wondering if prasadam is beyond everything, and how do you know that?
It's too sour, it's too sweet, it's too or a little bit, it's too spicy or whatever.
Yeah. So it doesn't really correspond with, even when Uddhava talks to Krishna in the 11th canto, Krishna explains what is good food for health and sattvic food, and he doesn't talk about frying or things like that. He talks about things that come easily, which could be raw food or fruits, or he doesn't talk about process. I mean, the word in Sanskrit, I don't remember exactly, but it's translated as it comes easy. And I understand that as non-processed and non-heavily processed. So sometimes in temples, everywhere in the world, I've noticed that they do use food that it doesn't seem compatible with sattvic. So does Krishna accept that even if it's not sattvic?
There's various interpretations of scripture also. It becomes quite extreme in some cases. What is sattvic food or what is offerable to the deity? So just for instance, just a related topic is anna. It can mean food, or it can mean rice, or it can mean grains. So some people, we fast from anna on Ekadasi. So some people say no rice, but we can eat everything else. We can eat wheat, we can eat barley, we can eat everything else. And some will say rice, anna means broken, or the whole one. So we can't eat the whole rice, but we can eat when it's idlis and doshas, we can eat it. So others say anna means all food, so they don't eat anything. So that's the Madhva Sampradaya. Ekadasi means don't eat anything. And try to avoid water if you can. Sri Sampradaya says only the broken ones, so we don't eat the doshas and idlis, but we can eat the grains. We say don't eat grains of any sort, but we can eat the vegetables and the fruits. So like that. So with food in general, there's a little bit of interpretation there. So the categories of sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic can also vary a little. So with food, you could have some spicy, but not too spicy, and then you can still say, okay, we can say sattvic food because you don't put a lot of spice in it. And if it gets mildly or more than that, may become rajasic or then even tamasic. So depending on the amounts you use. Same with sweet or whatever like that. If you overdo it, then it becomes rajasic or tamasic. If it becomes very destructive, it would be tamasic. If it's just very exciting to you, it would become rajasic. And if it's a little bit just for the taste, then it would be sattvic, like that. So various things according to amount also could be classified, even if they, by their nature, may be, let's say, hot or whatever, like that. So, and then again, we have that some things weren't even there in the Vedic times, so they didn't have chilies in the Vedic times. That came in probably the 16th century with the Portuguese brought it into India, I think, chilies. So,
did that exist in Vedic times?
Frying. I don't know exactly, but it's become traditional in some parts of India that you should have the fried food is purer than the unfried food or whatever, but that makes everything very heavy, like that. And we do find even in very traditional temples in South India, they do have some fried items there among the prasad, regular prasad. They have the vada there, which is like fried dal. So they make these things, probably because it lasts a long time. It doesn't decay even because it's hot there, so things will decay within a few hours. So if it's just subjis and stuff, then it's going to decay very quickly, or even milk products. But if it's that fried thing, it'll last for several days. So they make this and then they give that as prasad, and people can take it home and they can walk around for 2 weeks with that thing because they would be on pilgrimage, walking only. So they could preserve that and take it when they're walking or whatever like that for a few weeks. So that in that sense it would probably be preservative. Maybe for that reason they had the fried foods at that time.
Yeah, referring to deities every day, a lot of fried food, and then they would be eating it. That food for sattvic.
Well, it would take in moderation. Let's say don't eat much. That's all. Don't make your principal diet fried foods. So that's so even in the material world, they say that too much fried food is not good, and then even it's carcinogenic or whatever, and it's too many calories and so many things. So it's just not very balancing for the body to have too much oils and things like that in your body, and especially fried foods are not good for your body. So in that sense, if you eat all that, it can be tamasic also, because it can destroy your body even.
Thank you.
I got a question from Ajita, which is on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Eating, you said earlier in the class, eating food from materialists and giving them food is associating with them. Does that stand for prasadam distribution?
No, because that means when you're in their house and you're exchanging food that way, or you're in a karmi restaurant like that maybe. But when you're giving prasadam, obviously, that's an act of devotion. Giving prasadam is another form of preaching. So that's not a sangha. The sangha is you're using the food as a means to exchange or establish relationships, let's say, through the food. Of course, we establish a spiritual relationship through giving them prasadam also, so that's okay. So it's like we don't associate people, we can preach to them. We preach, so we give them knowledge, but we're not intimately exchanging ideas on a material level with them. So the same with giving prasadam is different from regular sangha.
Maharaj, I'm not sure what your understanding is of this, but you mentioned that Buddhists don't believe in the jiva, but they do believe in reincarnation. So what do they think is
It's all Maya.
is reincarnating?
An illusion. It's all mental. The jiva is mental, the world is mental, and we're living in a mental concoction. And ultimately we get rid of the concoction, then nothing exists. That's the idea.
They believe in past births, and they believe that...
Yeah, it's all illusory though. Yeah. It's all big, everything is here is one big illusion. A mental construct, like that.
And also, Maharaj, so is there any comments from the acharyas of how to properly appreciate prasadam and what to meditate on while you're taking prasadam?
Not too many details. Obviously it means mercy of the Lord, so we take it to nourish the body so that we can do devotional service, and we take it as mercy that everything is, in other words, it's we say expressing gratitude. It's the Lord's mercy, so therefore by the Lord's mercy we survive in this world so we can perform devotional service.
You were talking before about not being indifferent to other living entities, even though we don't intimately associate with them.
Yeah.
And also you mentioned the living entities with the point of compassion.
Yeah.
So it seems like the current world situation is a good time for us to develop compassion. Any reflections on that, how we can practically, especially like we're kind of somewhat isolated, how can we practically develop compassion and exhibit that compassion?
For other living entities.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course everybody's separate now, and you can't, our sangha is very limited, which from the material point of view it's a disaster, because they live on that sangha, sort of, but now we're separated. So for us it's very good in one sense, because we don't get the, that association very closely, so that's the good part of it. The bad part of course, is that we can associate for preaching and being merciful, and to people who are qualified for that. They have a little faith, or they're innocent, not the demons. So, but then we're a little bit isolated from that. But due to the blessings of modern technology, then we can preach through the internet or whatever like that. There's other ways we can carry out that preaching. So that's available to us, and we can say also that at this point in time, it's more acceptable, because people are just trapped in their houses, so then they're likely to listen. So it's a good opportunity to use the technology available to preach in that way. And of course, on the topic itself of, the coronavirus, etc., the background is that the virus itself came from maybe a bat or some other animal, and then humans eat those things. But the idea is this isn't the first time, and it's always these viruses that come from animals and from breeding animals. So we had the swine flu that came from pigs in America. And we had the chicken virus, I think was that the SARS one or something? There was a chicken. The bird flu. Yeah, so that came from the chickens in China or whatever. And all that's because they mass-produced these animals. And then they had the other one, what's the cow one? Mad cow disease. Yeah, and that also, some humans got it also. They got their brains started deteriorating. So that came again from mass production and the way they feed the cows. They're feeding cows, dead cows, or actually, that's what they were doing. And all these, so the mass production of the meat actually is very dangerous. It produces all sorts of weird viruses, and then people eat the meat and then they get these diseases. So a lot of these things are coming from meat eating. So if you want to stop these viruses, you've got to stop eating meat. So that's one lesson we learned that people should learn from this. Yeah? Yeah. And they say this is not the last one. This one, of course, can recur, but then there could be more deadly ones that come out in the same way, but more deadly. They spread quickly and more deadly. Huh? This one doesn't kill everybody. It kills the old people mainly, but the next one could be more deadly and kills everybody. Everybody that gets it may die. It could be a virus also. So, and it'll probably come from animals again. So it may not be from bats or whatever, some rare animal. It could be from beef or chicken or whatever, because of the way we treat other animals. So when we go to unnatural lengths to do all this, arrange for food for people, and this is what happens. We end up with all these strange diseases, which are very deadly for us. So we should be aware of that, and we can tell people that also.
You spoke about not taking food prepared by a non-devotee. What about when people buy bread, say, from the shop, and make a sandwich and then offer that to Krishna?
Mm-hmm.
So technically it's prasad spiritual, but the bread itself wasn't prepared by a devotee.
Yeah.
But you still shouldn't criticize all that material because you offer it with love.
Yeah, yeah. So we got borderline cases like that. Of course, better that you make your own bread and offer that. And at temples generally they do that. Most of the things they're not cooked outside. They cook everything inside. So that's the highest standard. But in householder life and outside, if you're outside, then you may have to do that in emergencies or whatever, because you can't prepare everything. So you may do that. So it's that you offer it is better than not offering it. So it's we have the gray area in between in many cases.
In relation to what Jujara was just saying, what about that comment Prabhupada made to Brahmananda that Adi-lila Padachite, by purchase something purified?
Yeah.
How does that apply?
Yeah, that's true, but that we shouldn't stretch that too far. So we can go back and say, well, even the fruits and vegetables are impure because they're raised by materialistic people, But then if we purchase it, then it is, like that. Or things are prepared like sugar or something or whatever. Molasses is, prepared. They cook it down, the molasses, and then we use that gur for cooking or whatever. So then it's impure or whatever. But then if we pay for it, then it's, there's some compensation there for karma.
In that letter, it seems that Brahmananda was going out to dinner at a restaurant for the preaching engagement. And responded by saying, "Don't worry, you purchase it pure." I mean, it seems like he was quite liberal.
So then again, if you come to that level, the restaurant, then if you're more or less obligated to do it, then what can you do? So at least you mentally offer it. That's the best we can do, and at least it's vegetarian. So there's all sorts of circumstances where we have to adapt the rules a little bit. Okay, Hare Krishna.